first one, effective lesson planning and activity-based teaching learning. As I said, these two things go hand in hand. All right, so let me cover these two things simultaneously. What is lesson planning? Or before that, do you need lesson planning? All are experienced teachers. You know what you are going to teach, how we are going to teach, everything you know. Is it necessary to have a lesson plan? Yes, a strong yes for this. A lesson plan to a teacher is similar to the blueprint to a civil engineer. Okay, so based on the blueprint only, he can develop his building. In the same way, with the lesson plan only, we can develop our sessions. Lesson planning is very, very important. And when we are planning the lessons, we should keep these three things in our mind. First one is encourage for critical thinking. The lesson plan, what you are preparing, should encourage for critical thinking. This is the need of the hour. Of course, we have to cover the content of the curriculum and have better students' engagement, right? So when you are preparing the lesson plan, you should keep these three things in your mind, and you should have a balance between all the three. It should encourage for critical thinking. You have to cover the content, students' engagement also. Somebody's mic is on, please. And of course, this may take some time. You need to invest some time when we are planning this lectures. That too in this particular way, in this dynamic way, if you want to plan your lecture, it will take some time consuming. But the time invested in lesson planning is worth, because the students are more engaged, classroom management is improved, and student learning increases naturally. So with this understanding that lesson planning is very, very important, we will see what are the basic steps involved in lecture planning, right? So when we start writing the lecture planning, we should have the basic steps. What do I want students to learn? What I teach, okay? What teaching and learning activities will I use? How am I going to teach? How will I check for understanding, students' understanding, whether I have made justice, whether I have made the students understood the concept? What I teach, how I teach, how I assess whether the student has understood the concept, whatever I have taught. These are the basic steps involved in planning the lectures, right? And for that, if you have any session, 50 minutes to 60 minutes session, you can plan like this. You can divide that 50 minutes into small chunks of time periods. So first 2 to 4 minutes you can allot for a general talk. Though I have mentioned as optional, I strongly recommend you to have a general talk in the beginning. When you are entering into the class, you start with something, some general thing you talk with the students. That will be the time given to the student's brain to shift from one subject to the other subject. Just before you, some history teacher might have taught some history, and all of a sudden a science teacher is going inside. Let us give some time for the brain of the students to switch over from one topic to or one subject to the other subject. I used to take the attendance in the beginning. Just entering into the class, I will say, I will talk to them something, and I will take the attendance in the beginning by calling their names. So calling their names gives me some connect between the students. And that time spent on taking the attendance, the students will keep the books inside their bag and take the books or notes related to my subject. Their mind will get shifted. And I have seen some teachers taking the attendance by calling the name 401, 402, 420, like that. Instead, if you call by name, you will have some connect between you and the students. Don't think that is waste of time. It is worth investing that time. Then you can recap the topics done in the previous session. The next 4 to 6 minutes, you can introduce the current topic, what you are going to teach. And once you are introducing, you have to assess the knowledge level of the students in that particular topic. Then this is the majority time you have to spend, that is building knowledge phase. Here is what you are actually teaching the content. Make it activity based. And after that, you have to spend some time on consolidating and concluding. Okay, consolidation, conclusion. We will see that later. Okay, the last one is extension activities and giving a preview of or the next thing what is going to come. Okay, this is how you have to plan your lecture plan. So recap. How can you do this recap of topics, whatever you have done in the previous session? This is quite a simple general thing. It is applicable to all the subjects. You can state the main points by yourself, or you can ask a student to help you summarize them, or you can ask the students to write what they feel as covered in the previous session in a piece of paper. Okay, ask them to write, and randomly you can collect 1 or 2 papers and read it. If you read aloud, that itself is a recap of the topic for other students. Suppose something is written wrongly, the understanding is not right. If you feel, you can explain that in a way. And of course, you can do that brainstorming here. Okay. And once you have done the recap, now we are entering into the current topic, right? Here, introduction of the current topic comes. I want you to imagine that you are a student, you are in a class, right? One teacher comes and say, I will take example from mathematics because I am comfortable with mathematics, right? So you can just substitute the mathematics by your subject concepts, right? Okay. A teacher X comes inside the classroom and says, good morning. Today we are going to see about Cayley-Hamilton theorem. And the Cayley-Hamilton theorem states that every square matrix, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And now another teacher Y comes inside and says, good morning. You know how to find square of a matrix if A is a 3 by 3 matrix. Can you find the square of it? Students will say, yes, A into A. Can you find A cube? Yes, sir. A square into A. A power 4, A power 8. They will think, A power 8, how I will calculate? Then you can ask, how long it will take for you to find A power 8? They will say, it's tough, sir. It involves more time. Okay, leave it. Now we are having a 3 by 3 matrix. You are finding a square easily. If it is a 5 by 5 matrix, if it is a 8 by 8 matrix, can you find the square of it? The students will start thinking, oh, how long I am going to do this? Now the teacher said, right. If there is a procedure or if there is a method for finding the higher powers of the matrix, irrespective of the dimension of it, whether it will be good. Here comes Cayley-Hamilton theorem. Using this Cayley-Hamilton theorem, you can find the higher powers of the matrix A. Even if it is a bigger order matrix, we can find it so easily. Which teacher do you like? X or Y? For this also, I have to assume your answer. Right. We can say that teachers will prefer teacher Y. Okay. It is preferable to state the topic in the form of a question. Okay, you know this, what is that, like that, because questions raise the curiosity and encourage the students to listen carefully. And we can give a creative introduction of the topic to stimulate the interest. You can give a personal anecdote, a historical event, a short video clip, or thought-provoking dilemma, real-world example, all these things. Okay, so your introduction of the topic matters. Once you have introduced the topic, what next? I said in the beginning itself, you have to understand the knowledge level of the students in that particular topic. Say you are going to talk about the same Cayley-Hamilton theorem. If I directly start from Cayley-Hamilton theorem and calculating that, suppose the students are in this level, okay, they don't know how to find a square itself, then whatever you are talking will be Greek and Latin to them. Say I am starting from here, students are already in this level, okay, they have learned that Cayley-Hamilton theorem already somewhere. Now if I am starting from this position, the students will get bored because they know those things already. So knowing the students level of understanding in that particular concept is important for your time management and making the class in a better way, right? There are a few anticipation activities. We call this as anticipation phase. For this, there are a few activities you can do. Brainstorming, free writes, okay, and think, pair, share, or semantic maps. And all these activities I cannot go in depth because the time might not be sufficient, and we have a plan of doing another webinar on activity based teaching learning, effective lesson planning with various activities. In that we will share that in depth. For example, I can tell what is this free write. Free write is you can ask the students to write on a paper without stopping for a minute. They need not bother about the spelling mistake or the grammar mistake, nothing. Without stopping, they have to write continuously for 1 minute, whatever coming to their mind. Like that thing, all these things are available in the net. Just type and browse, you can get the in depth, you can understand what all these activities. Okay, think, pair, share is again individually the students will be thinking, they will be paired with another student, they will discuss on the topic, the pair will be changed again, he will be talking to another student, like that they will be developing their knowledge. Okay, this is about anticipation activities. And next comes, so you have understood the knowledge level, now you are teaching. This is what is the major part, building knowledge phase. Okay, and for this you prepare several different ways of explaining the same concept. Like you can use some activities to explain the topic, illustrate the topic in a different way, hands-on experience, make the session interactive to engage the students in the topic, or you can give some relevant real-time examples, analogies, situations like that. Why should you prepare several different ways of explaining the same concept? In one way you can explain, is it not? Then why am I suggesting you to prepare several different ways of explaining the material? That is because to catch the attention of more students. Here you have to remember what we have done in the beginning, what we have done regarding the students learning styles. So we have narrowed down the 10 learning styles to 4 learning styles: visual learner, kinesthetic learner, read-write learner, or auditory learner. So these are the 4 different types of students. To cater the needs of all the 4 types of students in the classroom, you have to prepare the lesson in different ways, right? And there are some activities also for this particular phase, building knowledge phase. It is not just to explain the concept, not just understanding the concept. They have to understand the concept such a way that they are actively in what is this, why is this, where we can apply. That inquisitiveness should come in the students. That is what is the responsibility of a teacher. For that we are having many activities. Role play, I think this all of you know. Demonstration with the prototype, this is also explicit. Simple group projects, text coding, reciprocal teaching, and paired reading. See, all the subjects, all the topics, you cannot use the activities. Okay, so I don't say you have to use activity compulsorily for explaining each and every topic in all your subjects. It may not be possible. Wherever it is required, wherever it is important, say for example you are introducing a concept, you are going to tell a definition, you are going to give a theorem proof. There you cannot do any activity. Only the classroom teaching, chalk and talk, will help you in that particular case. So you have to think and decide what activity we are using, whether the activity is used there, is it necessary. Many things you have to think and decide before you are choosing the specific activity for building knowledge phase. Once you have completed one topic, you have to check for the understanding of the students, right? This becomes very, very essential. Where are we now? Are we in the classroom? No, we are writing the lesson plan. Okay, now we are in the lesson planning phase. Okay, when you are writing the lesson plan itself, you have to think about the specific questions you can ask the students to check whether they have understood the concept or not. What questions can I ask? Or you will have some list of objectives, course objectives or learning objectives. You have to plan what question I should ask to check whether my learning objectives are met, whether I have made the students understand, right? These things you should do when you are doing your lesson plan. Okay, and you should that is, you should anticipate the answers what your questions will generate. Okay, so you are asking some questions. When you are planning itself, if I ask these questions, these are all the answers from the students, then you have to carry over further. Okay, you should expect the answers from the students. And one more thing, you have to expect the questions from the students also. Then only you can manage the time. You should anticipate the students' questions. I am teaching this particular topic. Students might ask this. If he is asking this question, what answer I should give? All these things in lesson plan, right? And you have to decide what kind of questions will be helpful for you to take away the discussion further, or what questions will be deviating you, or it will sidetrack the class. Then if such a question is asked, you have to suppress it and go ahead. Okay, and this is very, very important. You have to balance between covering the content and ensuring that students understand. I have seen some teachers, their motive will be, in my class, every student should understand this. Very good, very correct. That should be happening. I appreciate. But for that sake, teaching the same topic in different wordings, and if it is a problem, same type of problem, n number of problems doing, until everyone understands, he will not leave from that particular topic, whether he can complete the syllabus on time. On the other hand, there are few teachers, they have time constraint in their mind. I have to complete the syllabus, otherwise my principal will ask, so somebody else will ask, I have to complete the syllabus. Running. You will complete the syllabus, but the students will not understand. What is the use of you completing the syllabus when the students are not understanding it? So you should have a good balance between covering the content and the students' understanding. Okay, so you should have a plan of checking. For this, you are having different activities you can do. And next comes consolidation, then conclusion. In consolidation, it is not just giving the students what they have learned. They have to think back. This is what I learned. Using this, what I can do further? What are the implications of that? How can I apply it in a different place? How can I interpret it? Like that, they should understand. That is what is consolidation. Okay, consolidation is not summary. That is coming in conclusion. Okay, so you have to give a consolidate. This is what you have learned. This you can use it here, there. This is what is its implication, like that. For this, you can use different activities. The activities for consolidation phase is like this: shared inquiry, the discussion web, and Jigsaw. These things, if you already it is 12 o'clock, so let me complete it by before 12:20. So I cannot explain all these things in detail. This Jigsaw is very interesting. Of course, the discussion web is also for consolidating that. Jigsaw is making the students depend on others to complete the task. Just to browse and try to understand. Towards the end, if time permits, if you are interested, I can explain this discussion web and Jigsaw. Okay. Next is conclusion. Develop a conclusion. Conclusion is very simple. It is just summarizing whatever you have taught in that particular lesson, the main points. You can use these activities, whatever you have adopted for recap, okay? In the same way, you can state the main points by yourself. You can ask the students to summarize, or just when you are going outside the class, you can collect the papers from the students. They should have written what is the conclusion, or what are the important points they have learned, what are the major points that is covered in that session. You can ask them to write, like a free write. So they can write and give. When you are going outside the classroom, you can collect and go. In your leisure time, you can see whether the students have understood it or not. If some wrong answer is repeatedly given by students, then you can understand that concept is not clear to the students. When going to the next class, you can do something on that particular concept. Okay, that is what is developing a conclusion and the activities for that. The last one is, of course, important too, extension activities and a preview. Extension activities are simply that what the students will do after the lesson to practice a new skills, how they can apply this idea. So whatever they have learned, how they can extend it in their learning. That activities you have to prompt at the end. Of course, don't conclude by summarizing the main points alone. Preview the next lesson. What is that in line? Say the same mathematics teacher who taught that Cayley-Hamilton theorem, if he had concluded the previous session like this, he should have asked the students, by giving a 3 by 3 matrix, find a square, find a power 5 and a power 8. He should have given one 3 by 3 matrix, one 4 by 4 matrix, and one 5 by 5 matrix. He should have asked the students to find the square of that matrix. In the next class, if he is asking whether you have found a square for that is a square a power 4, how long it take for you to find that a power 4? How long it took for you to write find that a power 8? Like that, he can start the subject there, right? So this will add on to the inquisitiveness to the students. You can give the preview of the one which is in line. Okay, that will bring some interest in the students to understand and to have a better connect with you, right? So this is all in lesson planning. So we started with talking some general thing and introduction of the topic, consolidation, conclusion, extension activities. So you have completed your lesson planning. You have done a wonderful lesson planning. You have done it. You are having a micro level lesson plan with you, right? Now we are going to the class. Okay. In the class, you will be knowing what is that you are going to do. Next minute, I will tell this. Next 5 minutes, I will spend for this. You know, but whether the students are aware of what is going to happen in the class, for that, to get their attention, to bring them on track, presenting the lesson plan is very, very important. You can write on the board. You can write a brief agenda of what is that you are going to do. I will talk about the Cayley-Hamilton theorem, theorem definition, or theorem statement, and few problems on finding higher powers of A, and a few problems on finding the inverse of A. You write there, so that the students are well informed. What is that going to happen, right? She will talk about this, then she will ask us to do problem, this activity, like that. So providing this organization of class time help students to have understanding the reason behind the activities what you are doing. And of course, having a visible agenda will help you and your students to stay on track. For you also, that will be very much essential. Say sometimes when we are talking, we will get deviated and we will be going somewhere. When you are looking at the board, so you have written only this I have to do, but I am talking something else here. Come back. So it will help you also to be on track. So this is what about the lesson planning. So here you have to do this lesson planning in different levels, right? First, have a broader one. In 1 month, what will you do? Of course, 1 semester or 1 year, you have the written agenda. This is what you have to do in 1 semester. Break that into monthly. This month, what I will do. Broadly, you have it. Weekly, how you will do, right? And period wise, in this period, what I am going to do. And particularly that period also, you have to divide it into different chunks. In each chunk, you should decide what am I going to do. Minute by minute, you should know what is that you are going to do in that particular class. This is called as, we call it as dynamic lesson planning, because you should have an avenue. Suppose you are left with 5 more minutes. What activity I can do? That also you have to write in the lesson plan. Say I am doing this in 1 period. 1 more 5 minutes are available for me. If it is so, I will do this activity. And again, you have to think the other way also. If I am running short of time, okay, some student is asking a question, some time is spent on that. So in that period, you are not able to complete whatever you have planned for that period. If that is the case, which particular part I can skip? All these things you have to write in the lesson plan before the classes start itself. This is called micro level lesson plan, or and dynamic lesson planning. So micro level, because you are writing even minute by minute what will be happening in the class. Dynamic, because you can alter it based on the available time. Okay, so you should have a micro level and dynamic lesson planning for your session.